We're ready? Okay,
We are.
great. We're streaming. So good morning and welcome to the monthly meeting of the RIMSL BOCES. We're glad you're all here. We're going to start with introductions. My name is Dr. Carrie Olson and I serve on the Denver Public Schools Board of Education and as the chair of RIMSL. And I'll turn it over to
Angela Christensen for Livingston Public Schools.
Becky Myers for Douglas County Schools.
And our two board colleagues on Zoom, maybe Brianna and then Nichelle. We'll go in alphabetical order.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brianna Mestas, and I am representing the Public Education and Business Coalition.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nichelle Ortiz, and I serve on the Aurora Public Schools Board of Education.
And I'll turn it over to Chad Burns.
Chad Burns, Executive Director at RIMSL.
Julie Stilzer, Finance Director at Livingston. Chris Feditone, Coordinator at Livingston.
And we have a guest.
And I'm Ruby Buick. I'm just a parent here. I have 4 kids here and I've never been to a BOCES meeting, but
We're really glad you came. Thank you so much for being here today. Wonderful. So the first order of action that we have today is to approve the agenda for today. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for today?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
second.
All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Motion passes. The next item agenda I have is approval of minutes from the June 6th meeting. Oh, we've lost audio. So hang on just a sec. So can you hear us? Brianna can hear us. Nichelle can't. I'll type that in the chat.
Okay, are we good? Great. Sorry. I turned the owl on inadvertently.
Can you hear now, Nichelle? Yes. Okay, great. Perfect. Okay. So the next item we have is approval of minutes of the June 6th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from June 6th?
I'm just reviewing the minutes from June 6th.
Do I have a second? Second. And all in favor say aye, or raise your hand. Aye. Perfect. And now I will turn it over to Chad for our executive director report.
Well, thank you. You have a copy in your paperwork today, but I will add before we get started, I had the opportunity to get out with our 4th and 5th grade students who are engaged in a challenging crew trip. They have 2 days of base camping and they're backpacking for 3 days, 2 nights. 4th and 5th graders, they are 9, 10, 11 years old. So a challenging experience. They're hiking 10 miles over the course of those 3 days. And I got to see both groups yesterday, about half a mile from the high point to where they would turn the corner and both start heading back down to their base camp. And they were in great spirits and accomplishing something super challenging. The kids all had a smile, but they all said, this is really hard. This is type 2 fun. But it's going to be an experience that they're going to remember and write about in their portfolios. And it's really an initial phase into the next series of more challenging experiences they'll have. So that wasn't in my report because I wrote this before yesterday, but it was great to see our students. Board members have requested access to current enrollment data. And so as of September 25th, this table that you have reflects the enrollment data of your district at that time. We'll update this again post October 1st, which is count day, and we are in count window right now for a period of 10 days. So if anybody in your district is asking where your district breakdown is, those are the numbers of current students currently enrolled. And then we do have 3 students that are out of district. One of those students being the St. Brain student is a staff member's child. So certainly.
I was going to ask about that when I saw that, like, that's a long way to drive. So.
And it's a phenomenal staff member and we're glad that she keeps making the drive.
Yeah, great.
So if you have any questions about that, we have started the open house period for the school year. We held our first open house on September 7th. Those are held on the first Thursday of the month at 8:30 a.m. here in the community room. And that's where we spend time marketing to our parent community. The next one is a breakdown from our workshop where I shared the school performance frameworks. At that time, we had the initial 1-year framework, and we received the 2-year framework, and I had the opportunity to go through that data to provide the board our update on our work with equity and student achievement, as well as academic growth. And so just to celebrate once again, RIMSL is accredited with distinction. We met 76.3% of our annual targets, and we're one of 11 districts out of 182 statewide to receive that. We also maintain a high participation rate from our families, between 92.4 and 99.4% of students tested. So this set of data is very reliable because we don't have a high opt-out rate. An overview on the second page, you can see how we score across the board as an entire district level breakdown, where we meet and where we exceed in academic growth, academic achievement, and then post-secondary and workforce readiness is only measured for our high school students. And then breaking that data down further at the school level, you can see in all areas we are meeting or exceeding, except for academic growth in our elementary school. Certainly a place we're targeting intervention services, and we've been strategic around splitting kindergarten into class sizes of 13 to 1. So we hope to see those strategic efforts once those students test. In academic growth, that test would be in 4th grade, not 3rd grade, because we have to have the 3rd grade data point to measure the 4th grade data point against. So a few years, hopefully, before we see the strategic initiatives take place supporting our elementary school students. And then if you go to the next tables, I think these are the most telling of our performance, of our commitment to excellence, our commitment to equity. One thing I didn't include here at the time, but I want to note is, I'll just start with elementary school. Broke down our all students and our minority student scores from the 2-year framework, and we have a less than 1% gap between students in English language arts and mathematics. So that is huge to celebrate, that we do not have an achievement gap, which is a national phenomenon. And I want to report that we have 37 students represent 26% of our population. So 26% of our elementary population are non-white students. 23% of our student population in middle school are non-white students, and you can see the test breakdowns there as well, where once again we have a less than 1% gap between our minority students and all students. And so a huge celebration that in grades 3 through 8 per this data point, we do not have an achievement gap between enrolled students here at RIMSL that are identified in this score report as minority students. So huge celebration. Thank you to our staff. Thank you to our administrative team. Thank you to the board for our continued strategic work around equity. And then when you pull that to high school, we do have a gap. That gap is less than 10%. Certainly an area that we want to target, and we have more minority students per percentage in high school than we do in our other grade levels, as they represent 32.5% of that student population. So we want to keep measuring or keep identifying, working with, and understanding through the PSAT cycle, which is given in 9, 10, and 11, where these scores come from, that we do have a slight gap there that we want to continue make sure that we monitor and support students. So I'll stop and take any questions of the board around student achievement or school performance frameworks, celebrations, or comments, and then continue to move through the report.
Do any of my board colleagues have questions or comments for Chad? Brianna or Nichelle? Good. All
Just
right.
congratulations on the hard work.
Oh, sorry, Brianna, go ahead.
I was just going to say congratulations on the hard work. I know.
Also, hold on now. Let me see if we can switch speakers again.
All right, try speaking.
Now,
Yes, now we can hear you. Thank you.
3rd time's a charm. I was just saying, congratulations on the hard work. I mean, for students, obviously, for families, parents, for supporting their students, for teachers, and then for your staff. This is, I know it's a labor of love, and y'all are doing incredible work. And I know that, scores aren't everything, and they are definitely something to be proud of. So congratulations to y'all.
Thank you. Definitely would like to echo Brianna's comments. Like, I know that this reflects a lot of the hard work. And of course, being somebody who's dedicated to expeditionary learning, I think when you focus on things like expeditionary learning and culture and students feeling loved and seen, a lot of the scores come along because that's a foundation of what students need. Do you have a breakdown for students with disabilities or multilingual learners?
It's in the SPF. I can bring that
Okay.
next time.
Thank you. And just a note for the viewing audience, I know we don't call our non-white students minority students anymore, but I know that's what the state still does. So that's why you'll see that reflected in here. I know we say students of color or identify them by disaggregated groups, but I know the state is a little behind in getting caught up with all of that. So congratulate your staff on behalf of all of us. It's great news. Very good.
Next update is appreciate Director Ortiz being with us today from the Aurora Public School District. She's not seeking re-election in her district for a second term. And so Remsel will be appointed a new board member once newly elected members are seated. And based on this transition, Aurora Public Schools has requested a presentation to their board about Remsel, and that will happen on October 24th at 6 p.m. At the Aurora Public Schools board meeting. BOCES President Dr. Carrie Olson and I will be in attendance to meet and answer any questions of the board during discussion. And the topics that we will cover during that presentation are the history of the intergovernmental agreement and relationship between the participating districts, the enrollment breakdown, student achievement, strategic plan as tied to equity work, capital position, facilities and campus, and then upcoming educational opportunities for the spring of 2023. And since writing this report, continued work around our partnership with Aurora, did reach out to Principal Kristen Wiedemeyer at William Smith High School, which is a high-performing EL school within the Aurora Public School District, highly sought after by Aurora Public Schools families. And they currently have a wait list for their high school. And we currently have vacancies in our high school. So they send an informational letter to their wait list of families that Remsel has options, has availability for seats for students in Aurora if they so choose to seek out Remsel High School as compared to William Smith High School. So excited to learn that William Smith is continuing to be a high performing EL option and provide choice to families if they're interested in attending Remsel.
And Nichelle, would you like to add anything about that presentation that we'll be doing, or do you want to speak about the vote that your board will be taking after that, or just add any context?
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for accommodating the request and your flexibility in adjusting these meetings, the meeting time, so I can make the next couple before the new election. Yeah, so like you both said, this will be an opportunity just to get new board members and existing board members refreshed on Remsel, just how you know, the amount of students that enroll and participate in the offerings at Remsel, and just to give our board a chance, an opportunity to discuss if this still feels right, and answer any questions. It may or may not result in a motion, in a vote. We may just keep things going, and so then I imagine there would be no motion made, and there may be a motion to after the discussion to make some changes. So I thank you both for putting together the presentation and making the time work to be present. Yeah, and I think it's just a really great opportunity for APS. We have a new superintendent, so just a really good like refresh moment, if anything else, and maybe just to build up some excitement and educate our parents about the offerings in the metro area for them. So thank you again. That's all I wanted to say. I'm very appreciative.
You're welcome. We appreciate you being here and for making it possible for Chad and I to be able to come and speak to your board. I think it's really important that they understand all that Remsel does, and then the connection with William Smith High School. So I'm looking forward to it. I invite anybody else who'd like to be in the audience that day to come with us. I know there's a conflict with some of our board colleagues with other commitments in their districts, but Chad and I will be there. So thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? All right, great. We'll come back to this a bit when we give the executive director update, but I'll let Chad keep going with his report.
Great, thank you. District accountability meetings have been set for the school year. Those are listed below. Those will happen after school, except for on January 5th, which is a professional development day. And we'll just take some time to meet during that time to be respectful of our staff that participate. To accommodate viewing of the board, I will send calendar invites of these dates and times along with a Zoom link, and we'll do the same format that we have for our board meetings, which is live streaming with the OWL, and then it records to the YouTube channel if anybody would like to have access to those meetings after the fact. So excited to meet with our district accountability committee and work with them. And I know they'll be instrumental and supportive of the board in the search for a executive director. Perfect. Finally, super excited about we are committed to ensuring that our design of unique learning expeditions aligns to Colorado academic standards and also reflects the diversity of our school community. And as we study historical events, plan our lessons, we seek to include multiple perspectives. RIMSL's always trying to connect those experiences outside of the classroom to bring those topics to mastery for students. And I'm excited to share with the board 2 new learning expeditions that highlight this work. And those are going to be happening in our high school, specifically in 11th and 12th grade. We've historically traveled to Little Rock, Birmingham, and Memphis, and unfortunately, due to the financial limitations and our desire to extend from 6 days to 10 days, we've planned an alternative civil rights experience that connects to the Native experience of our students and community, as well as our work with the Black Excellence Resolution and connecting our continued work with Brown versus Board of Education and the Greenwood Rising Black Wall Street Historical Center. And so we're going to extend our trip. So kids are going to get out for 10 days instead of 6. And we are going to take them on an immersive experience working with Native communities, as well as historical events and contexts in Middle America. So we're excited about this unique opportunity. We're going to be looking for, we're in the process of booking campgrounds, school gymnasiums, community centers for places to stay so we can keep the cost down. We'll also be driving our mini buses in lieu of charter services that drive costs up significantly. So really proud of our team of instructional leaders, our high school staff, for really committing to extending learning opportunities for kids, even though it's less comfortable and less convenient than historical in the sense of charter buses and hotels. But we want to give kids these deep, rich experiences. And then in 9th and 10th grade, as students understand westward expansion and manifest destiny as a part of our history, we'll be working with a Native community, a Navajo guide that we've worked with before. The gentleman's name is Mr. Adam Teller, and we will access Canyon de Chelly, which is a United States national monument, but you can't enter Canyon de Chelly without a Native guide permit. So our country's commitment to working with this community on the lands that are sacred and ancestral to them. And so it's a very unique experience for our high school students in 9th and 10th grade that they get to travel with Native guides through the Canyon and learn history. And those trips happen in March.
Both of them?
Yeah, both of them happen in March. 9th and 10th grade go at one time for 10 days, and 11th and 12th grade go for the same period of time. So I'm just beyond excited, proud of our staff, our community for engaging in this type of work, getting our kids into these type of experiences. And so just appreciative.
Yeah, we're appreciative too. It's really, really exciting. Does anybody have any? Oh, Brianna, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was really excited to see these shifts and the plan for some of these expeditions, Chad. So thanks for highlighting that in your report. I know that it's frustrating to not have that same sort of like financial flexibility to offer what you've previously done in the past. And I think that it is so incredible that students will have a local experience and be able to connect that with surrounding areas. I think that's very intentional. I think it's really thoughtful. And thank you for doing that, right? I think there could be an assumption that if we just leave our state, then we overlook the civil rights and fights and struggles that have happened here locally. So I appreciate you all taking the time to root down in Colorado. With that said, I would love to offer a couple of just supplementary supports. So one, as you know, I completed my PhD program at the University of Denver. And in the chat, I've just included, it's called the DU John Evans Study Committee Report. And I forget which year this was put out, but essentially it's looking at a critical look at John Evans' role, who's the founder of DU, John Evans' role in the Sand Creek Massacre. So in terms of either leading up to the expedition, there's some possibility of connecting with local folks who were on this committee. There are sites that y'all could visit downtown that are connected to the sort of history and rollout retaliation that some received for speaking up against the massacre that day. There's a lot, there's so much here. So in addition, I have a family member who works at the Sand Creek Massacre site, and I would be happy to connect you. His name is Mario Medina. He's excellent, an excellent educator. So yeah, I'm happy to provide introductions, should any of your instructors want those, to both folks at DU and then also at the monument.
Thank you so much for that. And I forgot to have an acknowledgement of your amazing accomplishment last spring of finishing your doctorate work at DU, Dr. Mestis. Congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Mention that while also having a baby. I don't know how you did that. So I thank you for those comments. And I echo those as well. And I was going to mention the History Colorado Center has an amazing exhibit right now on the Sand Creek Massacre. I'm a professor of pre-service teachers of social studies methods. And as a class requirement, they all had to visit the exhibition in the History Colorado Center on the Sand Creek Massacre. So I'd love the connection to have your relative come and maybe Zoom into my class and speak. So, but again, this is amazing.
Same for us. Yeah.
You've made
And
this all work.
when we're on site.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you so much for that commentary and thank you for this great report. Hard work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Chad before we move to the next agenda item? We're good. Okay. So on to open forum. Do we have anybody signed up for open forum? I guess that's Julie who runs
Chris,
all
we
this.
did not.
Or Chris? No, no one. All right, thank you. So the next item is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Number one, that's not nice.
Thank you for reading the whole thing.
That's how you have to do it. So I'm happy you guys did.
perfect. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I looked at you because you're here in person. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, of course, you'd say nay. All right, discussion items. So on our executive director search, I'd like to give you a little bit of an update of where we are. We were fortunate enough to be able to meet with Coulter Bump, who's been the attorney for RIMSL, just to talk about what does this look like with Cherry Creek leaving and Douglas County leaving. So we kind of did a check with everybody else. Where are you? So that led to us doing a presentation with the Aurora board, just to make sure that everybody understands, so we know what the future of RIMSL looks like. And where everyone is. And in the same time, Chad is meeting with people in Denver Public Schools just to look at some various options for what RIMSL could look like in the future, depending on what Aurora decides to do. But I want to say publicly that our commitment from the board is to continue providing this amazing experience, as we just heard in this entire report. It's a need. It's something that this community wants. And being someone who wrote her dissertation all on students traveling, I have a huge commitment to making sure that we continue to find a way to maintain the great work that Chad has done over the past 12 years, 13 years?
13 years.
13 years at RIMSL and all that he's been able to do, and just seeing how excited students are. I got here a little early today and was walking around, and I love the artwork and the happy things in the hall and just hearing kids speak. It's a wonderful place. So we don't have any other firm updates for you now, but we will hopefully have more by the October meeting. Chad, was there anything you'd like to add to that, or did I grab all of our highlights?
Thank you. Did well with that.
So the good thing is we're early in this search, and we know that leaders start looking for new positions in the January to March time frame, so we've got a little bit of time, not a ton of time, but it's a smaller school, a smaller search. We've also already talked to Mike, whose last name escapes me, Richie, a couple times. Chad's talked with him, Angela and I have talked with him. So we're moving in a good direction. We feel like we have some good plans in place, but we're just kind of waiting to look at some of our other options. And that's why we're so grateful to Nichelle Ortiz for creating time for us at the Aurora board and having conversations with me. I also neglected to mention at the beginning of this meeting, Ann Egan is not able to be here today due to a family emergency. Otherwise, she would be here. Forgot to say that. Do I have any questions from anyone or any comments? All right. With that, we will move on to action items. We have the BOCES Safety Assurance Policy, CB recruitment and appointment of the executive director. We read that last time. And then we'll have, Julie, are you going to speak to the GASB resolution? Yep. So let's start with the BOCES Safety Assurance Policy, CB, the recruitment and appointment of an executive director. As you recall, last time, Chad, you pulled that from CASB. Do you want to speak a little bit about what you
presented to the board? Pretty straightforward, single page policy, outlines the process that the board can go through for recruitment and appointment. Has the timelines in there for finalists being considered to fulfill the position. As Carrie alluded to, this is a model policy from the Colorado Association of School Boards. And then the board has had the opportunity to read in first reading and then present today for the potential of a motion to take a vote.
Do any of my board colleagues have any comments or concerns with the policy as it's presented? Feels pretty standard. I think once we go through this, maybe by next spring, there might be things that we want to adjust since we haven't done this for what, 13 years, 14 years. So, but in the meantime, since we didn't have any policy, I think it's good for us to adopt a policy. But I'm just checking, is there anybody who'd like to have any additions or any other discussion on this before I ask for a motion to approve?
Just to clarify, so does there need to be like Chad, I heard you reference the timeline on here, and I'm wondering, so I see the only reference to time being like a list of the finalists being considered for the position must be made public by the board at least 14 days prior to appointing a finalist to fill the position. Are there any timeline considerations that are standard in this process? I will name that this is a new process for me, but I'm wondering what would be supportive in a sort of rollout or including in a policy.
So I may ask Angela to talk or Nichelle, because you two just went through a superintendent search. So do you want to add?
Say, as far as policy, I think we want to leave it vague because, you know, Chad has given us 13 months essentially to find his replacement. But I think that superintendents or executive directors can step down at any moment. So I think if you put any further restrictions on it, you would have to have somebody resign at a certain time. So I think this leaves it more open as far as the timeline. Is that what you're asking? As far as, you know, say October, we have to have someone hired to do the search and we would have to go through the interview process January through March. Is that what you're asking?
To be honest, I don't know exactly what I was asking. I heard Chad reference a timeline and I only saw one like time parameter in the policy. So I was just asking if, you know, if that's standard and if there are any other timeline considerations that we would consider here. But it sounds like the benefit of keeping it open is there's more flexibility. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that having a general policy and then we can kind of do the scheduling however it works with whenever an executive director would step down.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that.
There's some attempt to have some crossover. So we have Chad and a new person.
Yes.
So we can,
Yes. Ideally, several months to be able to have that crossover. Also not written in here again, due to the same constraints that Angela is talking about, is a desire to include public the DAC, the RIMSL community. And that's what that 14 days is intended to give. But if we say like so many months out, we have to have so many family meetings, what happens if somebody ends up leaving and we don't have that runway and then we have to hire somebody? So, but stating publicly, it is the desire of this board to include the RIMSL community, the DAC, families, students, staff, and the next executive director search. Good question.
The only thing that pops out to me is, and perhaps there's another policy, or it's just not needed for RIMSL, is some language about interim, like if RIMSL was to find itself just completely without that person. So that's something that did come up for us in our recent transition. And so, but again, I don't know if that's applicable to RIMSL or if there is a policy, another policy that speaks to who would act as the interim in the case that we find ourselves with this vacancy beyond the 13 months or anything in life that could happen.
That's in our district, that's in our policy around the superintendent's succession plan. So do we have an executive director succession plan?
We have not, but we
Maybe
can
that's
work
another
towards it.
policy we could look at for the next meeting, because it's like a sub policy for us. So we've required our superintendent to have a policy in the event of something happening to him or his family where he had to step down quickly, and how would we appoint an interim director? So maybe that's something we should have
Okay.
In place before we hire the next person. Good point. Thank you. We'll bring that up to the next meeting.
Michelle, do you have a policy like that in Aurora that you could share with us? So we could format after, as far as an interim?
We do.
Okay.
Let me make a note to myself because otherwise I'll forget. But yes.
Yeah, and I appreciate your comment around succession plans, and I know that is that's actually been something that we focused on at PABC as well, and not just for our CEO but for everyone. So we could, if you are looking for either process or models of what succession plans look like, it can certainly support by providing some guidance there. I do think that it is important to have it for the next person, and then they should also have it and update it throughout their tenure as well.
Yep, that's a good point. Thank you both for bringing that up. Any other discussion on the policy before a CBB? Do I have a motion to approve the BOCES Safety Assurance Plan CBB recruitment and appointment of executive director?
To approve BOCES Safety Assurance Policy CBB recruitment and appointment of executive director as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Right. So now I will turn it over to the fabulous Julie to get the information, which always makes sense when you tell me, and then later I'm like, I can't explain it.
So GASB 54, this is usually a resolution that is signed in June with the budget. And it says what we're going to roll funds over for. So GASB 54 specifies 4 different ways you can roll over money, et cetera. Non-spendables, so anything that's like in inventory, tied up in inventory or prepaids. Restricted, as in the policy, it says it's constrained to a specific purpose by the people that give us the money. We don't have a lot of that. Committed would be something that the board has agreed to commit funds to, and then assigned, which is the bulk of what we send through in GASB 54. Anything that's unassigned just goes into our reserve pot of money, so to speak. The second page of it actually shows what we have in each of those categories as non-spendable, restricted, and assigned. So the reason this is another resolution to supersede the last one, I received confirmation that we can carry over unused ESSER funds into this year. So that will be part of the revised budget we submit in January. It will also, once I get through the audit. There's another piece to this GASB 54, which is the resolution for the amount of funds we're rolling over. So once I get through the audit, I will know how much we're gonna roll over in ESSER, and I'll revise that and send it. So I'm hoping at the next meeting
Perfect.
is hoping.
And as always, we're happy to
So
schedule another
that's part
meeting.
of that. There'll be another part.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Julie? Thank you for all your hard work. I know this isn't easy, so thank you.
We need to vote on this. one.
Yep. So do I have a motion to approve 2022-2023 GASB 54 resolution revised?
GASB 54 resolution 2022-2023 revised as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. You're first and second here. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
I want to give them a chance.
And our next item is our budget report. So we're back at Julie.
So probably the two most important things to report this time, our annual audit, which all of you will know. We have to engage a firm every year to come and audit our books, and that has to be sent through the state of Colorado's audit office. This audit was scheduled to start in of October, and right now they're saying it's going to be the 6th of November because they're short and staffed everywhere. Last year, one individual did the entire audit, so all the field work, all the testing, which is not, they're just really short staffed. The problem here with this is we have a November BOCES meeting on the 28th of November. And that is when the board, accounting firm was supposed to present the audit to the board and it be voted upon. We are trying really hard to make that, but the accounting firm is basically 3 weeks, 4 weeks behind on the start. So there is a possibility that it won't get finished, the majority of the audit by the board meeting, or actually the Friday before when I have to send stuff. We will need to maybe make a special meeting in December and do it via Zoom, and she can present and you all can ask questions and that kind of thing, and then you can vote. I just don't know yet. I'm trying to make that deadline, but it's not dependent upon me.
Right. I know, and I appreciate that.
But that's the biggest thing that's in the management summary. The second one, which isn't really addressed here, because in addition to the audit and other things, I'm working on a revised budget for January. Right now, our enrollment, we had originally budgeted 390 students, and it's going to be, I think, 381. What we're going to rate?
Where we're at as of today.
As of this moment, 381, which puts us down about $98,000 in funding. So that's the other part of this rolling over ESSER funds and reshuffling the budget for January to see kind of where we end up. But that's where we're at now. The rest of what's in here is pretty self-explanatory.
The only, before I open it up for questions, the only thing I'd like us to keep in the back of our mind is if we do call a December meeting, I know, Nichelle, you'll be by then off your board. And so it would have to be another representative from Aurora. And I think Ann Egan is up for reelection. She's running again. And so we might have to quickly get 2 other board members up to speed in order to be able to vote. So if that adds any leverage to the accounting firm, but not, because by November 28th, I think most people might still be on their boards because the curing of the ballots or that whole thing they have to do. But yep, just to keep that in the back of your mind.
Okay.
So any other questions or comments on the financials?
I want to mention one more thing.
Sure.
We have two families who donated a big chunk of money to put mulch along the building here and
Oh,
to add replacement, we'll add to all the wood chips that are on our playground. So 2 families donated that money, and that's mentioned in here where one budget's over and the other one is over in the expense, but they net out. I just think it was a really nice thing.
Yeah.
to do.
Would you be willing to share or ask them if they'd be willing to share their names and addresses so the board could send them a thank you card?
I'm sure they would.
Okay,
I'll let you know.
let me know. I'd love to thank them on behalf of the board. That's very generous and kind of them. So thank you. Any other comments on the budget?
The only comment I would make is a clarification. This meeting has been moved to a Thursday at 9. The next meeting has been moved to a Thursday at 9, and that includes the November meeting. So the November meeting that we're speaking to is the 30th, not the 28th. And that's in your footnotes
Right.
of the meeting dates. So that gives them 2 extra days.
So, but if then that means that by then, because I know on our board, our new board members would have been sworn in by then. So maybe let's you and I talk as that gets closer. Let's see how we could maybe get this board to vote on that without having to really get 2 board members up to speed. Okay, you and I will be in touch. Thank you for reminding us of that. Okay, great. Items for future agenda, other than I know we'll keep updating on the executive search. Anything else anybody'd like to see? All right, with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Very good. Do I have a second? There you go. All in favor, say aye. And thank you, everybody, for attending. It's really good to see everybody on Zoom. Thank you for being here. Thank you to our audience members for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Thank you, and we'll see you in a month. Bye.
So we're pretty much.